organizing. I want to thank all the people we're going to have tune in this week, this month in particular, via Facebook and our other feeds. We're trying to do things a little bit more high-tech in light of, obviously, the public health concern, the very legitimate public health concern going on in our city and in our state and in our country right now. I want to let you all know that we are anticipating having an expert who will be coming in a little bit, who's also an Islander, who will speak to a little bit about public health policies and how we can best prepare. But after speaking to some of my fellow board members up here, the belief that we have is that we are one community, and if there are folks who might need some sort of assistance, whatever that could be, if they need things we can do together is making sure that our food pantries are taken care of, making sure that our neighbors who might be a little elderly, that we check in with them, if somebody needs their pet walked, other things that are really important in our community. Let's not forget, we're a neighborhood of 4,500 people, but this is a neighborhood where you probably know most of that 4,500, and that's the reason we all chose to live here, and that's one of the best things I find about City Island. And I want to just thank you for being here, and thank those of you who are tuning in and participating that way. The first thing we're going to do is we actually have a first presentation. It's from one of our friends and from one of our neighbors in the U.S. Census Bureau, and that's from Miss Linda Berk over here, who works for the U.S. Census. Before she begins, and she's going to explain why the census is important, but what you all need to know is we are actually listed as one of the harder to count communities, and it is critically important that everyone get counted. It's estimated that that New York State as a whole missed out on over $36 billion in federal funding it was owed. By comparison, that's more than New Jersey and Massachusetts were owned combined, and we're dealing with a budget deficit right now of $6 billion. So we were owed 36. So that's 6 years of money we were owed by the federal government we didn't get because we're not counted. So it's very important we speak to our friends, to speak to our neighbors, to speak to vulnerable populations, people who are undocumented, people who are vulnerable, or people who just don't like to open their doors. We do live in a time right now where there are those concerns, and so Linda's going to go into this all very much in depth, and I want to, let's give her a warm welcome, but let's do what we can to get counted. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you. Today was the first day the invites went out. And so when I tell you I'm like,
today.
We're all a little ragged, those of us at the Census Bureau, because we've been running crazy up to and also Census Day, which is April 1. And I'll explain the significance of April 1 a little later. But this, as John says, is critically important. And a lot of times people don't realize that the census, first of all, it's been done from the start. And I have some gifts, and I don't have enough. When I'm seeing them do a few games and test and see. Can anyone tell me when the first census occurred? And I'll give it to the person who comes closest, so give me a year. Every 10 years. 1790.
Oh, she knew that.
Yeah, to be fair, Beverly was on Jeopardy, so you might want to reach out to her. Beverly's super smart.
Who were the first people to do the census?
New York.
No, the agency that did it. Wasn't the Census Bureau.
Agency.
The Census Bureau didn't exist. So who did we send out to do the count?
The mayors, the cities.
She's closest. U.S. Marshals.
There we go.
Okay, we got board members. I had to go to someone in the Does anyone know what we use the census for? What those numbers are used to determine? John gave you a hand.
Yeah, we get the money. We get money.
Money.
There we go, Stephanie. Surprise.
Well, I'll donate mine to Patrick.
To Patrick.
There we go.
Donate.
Congratulations.
Patrick, that's not very.
I've got one more I got to think of another question, right? Can anyone think of the other purpose that we use the census numbers for?
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Oh, he didn't mention it. So money and power. So what would power represent?
Districting.
And
Funding.
representation. Okay, there we go. So that's why the census is important. We use these numbers to determine our representation and the distribution of hundreds of billions of dollars. We say 675 billion. Depending on what programs you count, some people can extend it to more, but basically it's hundreds of billions of dollars every year, and those numbers determine where the funding goes. So I remember the fight for the bridge. You've got the roads, you've got schools and libraries, all kinds of services that come from funding from the federal government and sometimes the state, but you need that initial amount that so if everyone's not counted, their share. And if everyone's not counted, you can lose representation. So we only have 435 congressmen, and they are shifted and distributed around the country based on the movement of the population. So one of the things that's really important is remember we have to count everyone. Someone said to me earlier today, well, I live in Atlanta. I was born in Atlanta. It doesn't matter where you're born. Doesn't matter what country, what state. What we care about is where do you live most of the time, okay? And if you're a snowbird, or say you're one of the children that lives 1 week with the mother and 1 week with the father, then you use April 1. That's when we use Census Day as a designation to determine where you live. So if you can't decide where you live most of the time, because you're all over the place, then you would use April 1. Where are you living on April 1? And that's where you'll be counted. And the thing that's important, we have this debate with parents. They want to count their young people who are away at college. The college town wants them counted. So imagine if you had a college in this town. You want those numbers here because those students are using your services, your roads, your hospitals, your schools, your libraries, and all of that. So it's really critically important that we count you where you are most of the time, okay? One of the things that it's really important to do is to count everyone. So we have people who are afraid to be counted because they may not be documented, or it's just not a safe environment for some people. There's this distrust of the government. You know, we have people moving around. There are a lot of challenges we deal with. One of the important and probably the most undercounted segments of our population are children under 5. And so we make a very strong effort to say, count me too. You know, we'll put a picture of a young child or a baby. I want to be counted too. So if you're born before April 1st, anyone born after April 1st of that year is not counted. But all babies born up until April 1st need to be counted. Because this number that we get, that we use to distribute money every year, as well as representation, we live with it for 10 years. 10 years. So for 10 years, you'll be shorted on something. And so it's very important that we count every child. And I have folders up here that tell you why you have to count every generation. We know why we need seniors. Seniors have a lot of services. But if you look at the various programs that are funded by money, it counts by the federal government. It covers everybody. So from children. So if I get missed at the age of 4, I'll be 14 before the next census. I've missed out on a lot of services that I would have needed during my childhood. Seniors will miss out on services. So it's critically important that we count everyone in every household. I have here for you today, and you also have people who brought their census. This is what the census will look like. It's going to be an envelope with a letter and an invitation in it. I have 8 folders. I really thought I was meeting with the board, John. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, we thought it would only be the board after today's news, but we're grateful for those of you who showed up. And
I would have
no, it's fine. We'll take copies
I
of
do
everything and we'll
copies that
share
you
it
could
online.
share. Okay.
Absolutely.
So everybody's going to get an invitation. And I spoke about the challenges that are out there today, right? We have mobile population, complex living arrangements with families, distrust of the government. So we reach out to organizations like this organization as a trusted voice to help us get that word out. But we've also tried to make it easy because we live in a very diverse environment these days. And so we've tried to cover approximately 99% of the languages that are spoken. So when the invitation comes out, originally it comes out in English and Spanish. And then you have 12 additional languages over English that you can do the census on the phone or online. And that's new. We've never done that before. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, the census is trying to stay in the 21st century, or come into it.
And we just posted the link actually on our Facebook page. So if anyone hasn't filled it out yet, you can do it right. You can pull up your phone and do it right now. It's 10 questions.
Right. It came live today. Well, actually a couple of days ago, but it's live right now, and you can do that. So So we have it by phone, online, and those two methodologies allow you to do it in 12 additional languages other than English. I'm not going to rattle all of them off because usually we do this with a visual presentation. I can sort of sneakily refer to it or you can see
Here you go.
it. But it's everything.
We might have a
Oh,
little
there
language
you
for you.
go.
She's prepared.
Yes. So in addition
take
to
credit.
Spanish
She did
and
it.
Chinese, we have Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, which is for Philippines, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. So that's available online. Thank you. And by phone. And so this piece of paper she has and what you get in the mail will tell you what number to call to speak in the language you want to speak in. And all of that is to help us do this more efficiently, to do it more cost effective, because it's an enormous budget to put boots on the ground to knock on people's doors. So we're trying to pull that back. But the other thing is a little, you know, who wants someone knocking on the door? I tell people all the time, if you don't self-respond and we send you 4 additional notices after the first invite, there's going to be nobody wants anyone at the door to ask them these questions. So you have a chance to do it personally or on your own, online, even if you do it on the phone. Doesn't matter who you're talking to because they're not in your face, they're not in your living room, they're not at your front door asking you these questions.
I'm
So
gonna
we're
stop
really
you here. Are they
pushing.
gonna, what's the scenario for people knocking on your door at this point?
You know, so
Right, and, you know, I'm just being reasonable because some people probably don't have access to the internet and may not be nervous about going out to even mail it at some points. So what is the?
So we have an alternative this time,
Sure.
which is, I tell partners all the time, we come to you. We try and address the situation as it meets your needs, because every community is going to be different, right? So this time around, we have a very short window where we are doing what we call questionnaire assistance centers, where we will come with the staff, go online and help people fill it out. So we use libraries a lot because they have computer labs. So we have a lot of partners in different places that have facilities that allow us to do that. And then after April 1st, what we will have for at least a month or a month and a half or so will be what we call mobile questionnaire assistance centers. And we literally go to the communities and it will be based on the results. So another interesting thing we have this time around is we have the live count. So every day, you'll be able to go to 2020census.gov and see how your community is helping, see how the numbers are doing. We will be doing the same thing. And when we see that a community is lagging, it's not reaching our expectation, because we know everybody's not going, you know, we aim for 100, but we never get 100. We go right there. So we use, on a Monday, we'll review the situation, and that whole week we'll approach all the communities that are lagging. We've signed partners up who've been willing to be our MQAs, and we'll come in with what we call Census response representatives with the iPad, and they will help people get through the process. So that's great for seniors and people who aren't really very good with computers. And then we have other ways in which we will get paper to people. So we have communities, not necessarily true here, but there's a lot of upstate New York that's like an internet desert. They couldn't get on if they wanted to. So we do paper forms, and we sort of understand where those communities are and send them
What is
paper.
the ultimate deadline?
Ultimate deadline for.
I'm just right.
It's right here.
If you look at
I know
papers-
it's April 1st. I get that, and I looked in mine right away. But you know
But
what? What is your?
people don't meet deadlines. We will be doing non-response follow-up until probably the end of July.
Okay.
And so what I will say is, so City Island Rising is hooked up with the Bronx Borough President's Office as a census partner. And so, you know, we're going to be continuing to stay connected to our local government officials to help in any way that they can in reaching this community. If you are first of all, I would say everybody who's online, everybody who's here, talk to your friends and family about why this is so important, why it makes sense, and we need to have representation. You know, as she mentioned, there's so many issues that we talk about in this room where we say, oh, let's get the attention of our elected officials. The more accurate the census is, the more people that we count as being, you know, residents of City Island, the more powerful that voice is. And so, you know, help us talk to your, you know, neighbors and your friends and your family about why the census is so important, encourage them to fill it out. As long as this branch of New York Public Library is open, they, which seems to be open for individuals continuing at least for now. The computers there are a great resource for folks who might not have connectivity in their home. If you know somebody who is having technological challenges or isn't able to fill out the census, put it on our Facebook page and we'll figure out how to connect that person with the right resources. We want to be a connector to make sure that we get an accurate count of City Island.
Yeah, and so what she's saying is really critically important. You want the numbers in City Island to be as realistic as possible because you need to make your presence known when you're out there fighting for that money and representation. I can give you a real quick story how the Bengali community did it in Queens last time around, and they worked very effortlessly. They put a copy of the questionnaire in their paper to demystify, to take away the fear, to show, look, these are simple questions, 10 questions. You give the Chinese delivery guy more money. More information, more money, more information, and you give Verizon and AT&T, they've got your credit card, your social security. We don't ask for that. We're not going to ask for anything about banking. We're not asking for your social security card. We're just asking for name, date, relationship to the person in the household. We are trying to get a snapshot of what our country looks like.
And importantly, for some members of our community, at one point it was proposed to ask about immigration status. That is not being asked,
No,
right?
That's
So
issue.
please help make sure that people understand that as well. There is no question on the census about citizenship status. So I know that that made a lot of people very nervous. That's why a lot of census experts were saying, in order to get an accurate count, it makes sense to not have that question. So to the extent that you are in conversation with people who say, yeah, but I don't want to have to disclose my immigration status, it's not on there.
So we don't care about the status, and we don't care about where you were born, whether you were documented. What we need to know is who lives in this country right now. It's a snapshot of the country. It's a chance for us to know who the people that live here and the housing units that we have available. So that's really a good snapshot of the country. Let me tell you that every person who works for the Census Bureau is sworn in. We're sworn in, and we are sworn for life to protect any information that we might see. And that's called Title 13. It was proposed in the 50s to protect individuals, to give you the assurance that we will not share your information with any other agency, with the courts, with the president. So that means law enforcement, ICE, IRS, anybody. We don't. And we've had probably several cases where they've attempted to ask for it, including the president's office. And
Yes.
the courts have upheld that protection. It's important for people to know that the federal courts will not allow that to happen. And the reason so is we could not do the census if we were giving materials out, information out to people. And Congress has, and the federal courts have been very supportive of it. So even to the point where the citizenship question was taken out, that was federally protected. So it's important to know that we're about as safe as you can get. Even the online process has this very aggressive cybersecurity on it, where information goes one way, it doesn't go the other way. It's white noise, so even if someone got in it, they wouldn't be able to determine what it is. And it's a number of things that we've done to stand at the cutting edge of what cybersecurity is.
I just wanted to echo something Linda said, and for the people over here, I can't tell you how many times when we're advocating for something like flooding, like public transportation, like something for the schools, like something for the library, whatever it is, how helpful it is to have some of the information on the census. It is super important. These are tools then that we can use this data to advocate for our needs, what the population is looking like, the demographic changes, everything. It is so super important that everyone, our friends, our neighbors, fill out this form. It's 10 questions. It's less than 10 minutes.
I watched someone do it today.
Yeah.
Just one person. It took her less than 4 minutes.
So we really need you guys to help, both online and here in the room, to step up to the plate and get this filled out, because we are going to use this data to fight for all sorts of things for our community. And as Beverly said as well, it is just really, really critical. So let's take a few questions. For the people online, Dan will read them in a few minutes. But for the people in the room, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Berk?
Can I just give you that quick scenario that you just mentioned when I talked about the Bengali community, so I should have finished it. They really aggressively went out to make sure they were counted in 2010. After the census was over a year later, they were able to get the Bengali language put on the voting instructions in their community. They got a New York City holiday that kept conflicting with their children for the testing, removed and changed to another date. And they told us, they came back and said, we were able to do this because our numbers were demonstrative in the last census. We showed we were here and we had needs to be met.
Thank you so much. So know your numbers. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Berk? Anybody online have any questions?
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Everybody's
You
going
did
to
an
fill out
excellent
their
job. That's
list.
what that means. Congratulations.
Please remember, John, that the census is easy, safe, and I did it automatically.
I know.
Easy, safe,
I was going to leave it
and
hanging like that.
important.
Yeah.
Please remember those things: easy, safe, and important. If you have any questions, John knows how to reach me. Beverly will know how to reach me.
Yes.
I will be available, as will Lucia de la Cruz, who John met.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Oh,
you for
absolutely.
coming.
My pleasure.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you. Oh, I have a few other tchotchkes I can read for you.
Okay,
These
cool,
are
yeah.
fans for the summer, and these are what we call chip clips.
Oh, we like that too.
There we go. Everyone's leaving with swag tonight, all right? So everybody's getting it.
Something.
Everyone, thank you again, and let's thank her. She had a meeting tonight in her own community, and she said, "I can come, but I got to come in the beginning." So we really thank her for taking the time out. She didn't have to. Thank you, Ms. Berk.
And I tell you, I use the island in the summertime. We have a boat down
Yeah.
there at the Morris Beach Club, so I'm here
Good.
See you
on
at the
a
bars.
regular basis.
So she knows we need that funding for our roads that need to be
Because
repaired.
I'm wearing
Let
them
someone
down
sit
with
over
you.
there. There we go. That's what neighbors do.
Thank you
So
so
thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you so much,
So
Mr.
welcome.
Thank you.
Take
Appreciate
it
it. Yes. Yes. Elbow bump. Okay. So thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Berk. Again, we decided to go through with this meeting for a few different reasons. Actually, here physically, and one of those reasons was we were having lots of guests. And one of our guests, who I've been working very closely with lately, is Helen Cheng, who is here. She's with the New York Sea Grant, and this is through OEM, right?
No, we're just partners.
Okay, but they're partners, and actually that's how we got introduced, is through some of our work with OEM. As everyone who knows, when there's flooding on the island, either Ditmar Street, within Pelham Bay Park, we are documenting those things. We're going to give a presentation. We're encouraging you to document those. But, they say climate change isn't near, it's here. And it's really important that we start documenting these things and fighting for our fair share. There are substantive efforts, both at the city and state level, to start addressing this, and funding is going to become available. So we plan on being, not just with the census, but on this particular issue, a very loud voice arguing for our fair share. So without further ado, Helen, take it away. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me,
Yes.
John, and everybody at City Island Rising. So my name is Helen Cheng. I'm from an organization called New York Sea Grant. I'm based out of CUNY Brooklyn College. There's another organization there called Science and Resilience Institute at Jamaica Bay. So, but with this project, we're really trying to work citywide, right? So I'm gonna try not to use the the presentation, but you guys have a copy of it,
And
same online.
They have it on the Facebook page
So
online. We
feel
posted
free
it.
to follow along. I'll try to be as animate as Miss Berk. So we know that flooding. we know. Actually, I'm really glad she actually presented first, because the U.S. Census really does provide funding for different infrastructure projects, especially infrastructure projects that address flooding in your community. So we know flooding in particular is happening across all of New York City, and our first hardest hit places that experience flooding are coastal communities. So we've seen water on the streets when it's really stormy out, or when there's a heavy rainstorm. We also see water on the streets when there's blue skies, sunny days, right? A lot of those ground zero areas are coastal communities near and around Jamaica Bay or Staten Island. But we know through a lot of the photos that John and his crew has sent us already that it can happen on a cloudy day, and there just happens to be an offshore storm happening, right? And that brings water on our streets as well. So with this project, it's titled Community Flood Watch Project. We are trying to utilize your knowledge. You guys are here 24/7, and you know where those hotspots are. John has sent me a bunch of photos and GPS and addresses, and it's been really great so far to know where those hotspots are, because then we can empower you guys to say something to your elected officials, to city agencies, that hey, this street I need to get through every day gets flooded during these times. And it may happen during a storm event, it may happen during a very high tide flooding event. So, and we know that, as John said, climate change is here, and one of those aspects of climate change is sea level rise. A lot of our Queens and Brooklyn communities are already experiencing flooding almost twice a month. And those can happen on a stormy day, but also during a very blue sky sunny day, just because those tide waters are getting higher and higher. And how New York City was built, it wasn't built to those heights, right? And so we know that it's going to get worse within a 30-year time span, which is the time range of a mortgage, right? So to be aware of these things now and to document these things now, as well as knowing how to prepare or when to prepare, is going to be really valuable, and that's the benefit of this project. So we've been working with John and Matt and forget the other name. David Diaz to gather information about when and where flooding occurs. And this information has actually been used. So the National Weather Service, who's in charge of sending out the alerts to emergency management, to weathermen, the TV, they're trying to also understand what the impacts of flooding are based on their forecast. And so we've been able to send city island photos through the help of John and through the help of everybody else, and help them verify their numbers, that if it is forecasted to storm at these heights and these times, these are the potential impacts that can happen. So we're actually using your community knowledge to help improve National Weather Service forecasts. So it's really exciting to see this work getting used, and then in the end, we have this data set to actually present to elected officials. Hey, we've been documenting where and when flooding is happening. It's not just some story that I developed. This is data that we have, so it can be really valuable. So it's this really great exchange between scientists and experts and communities, and that's what we really value with this project.
To build on something Helen's saying, I just want you all to know that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her office has actually observed some of this stuff that Helen and we're all doing, and been reaching out and very interested. You know, obviously the environment's a big issue for her, and just really interested in what we're doing and what we're documenting. So through Helen's work and through the photos we're getting on the ground, you know, this is a tremendous partnership for advocacy. And I just hope everybody recognizes that, both online and here in the room.
And I think this project really wouldn't, and it's only growing, it really wouldn't have been possible without working with community partners like City Island Rising and other folks. So the more people that we can recruit and participate in, I think the more robust the information will be. So what we would love to do, and with John's help and with Matt Cruz's help, is to have a kickoff meeting to invite residents who are interested in this program to go through a little bit of a brief training. It's not arduous, it's not hard. It's as simple as taking a photograph of the flooding and documenting when and where it happens and what it's impacted by. Is it, there's flooding here and it's okay, it's not influencing anything, I can walk across the street today, or can I not even get to the bus because there's water on the street? So those are types of information we are looking for, and there's just a little bit of a training, but it's not as hard as it seems. It's as easy as just taking a photograph. Most of us, if all of us have a smartphone now that can take photographs, those on the social media world are really big on that. And I know City Island Rising has a great Facebook group, and that's why we wanted to work with you guys, because you guys have this really cohesive and connected community here, and that's super valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's open it up to questions, and our first question is Jason. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
What have you observed from stuff that either John or people on the board have given you as not evidence, like documentation, whatever you and your colleagues observed or learned from what they've given you?
Yeah, so we started working back in December, right? So it's still a growing relationship, but I would say that main road, I think it's City Island Road, right? Gets flooded when there is a storm event. We know that a problem area is the end of Ditmar Street, right? And so either through the structures that get impacted or cars that may be parked there. So we're trying to learn more about this, as well as where the sort of the future maps of sea level rise are sort of aligning with each other, because with the data that's coming out of our communities, just as another example from our southern Queens communities, we're seeing a close alignment between where people have been reporting flooding to where future sea level rise could be.
And also Bridge Street
I'm on
and
the low end of
Miniford.
the island, which is always a big flooding area, which comes from.
That's why we're going to get you to start helping,
Yeah.
helping us document this.
I know he has sent you pictures from the area
Yes,
because it comes up
Oh,
pretty
great.
far.
Yeah.
And so
We
I always
also-
take pictures of it.
Yes,
We
she
go
does.
out and like try to.
Oh,
we-
that would be awesome.
We
to collect.
sweep drains to,
Yes.
to get the water to keep going down because
Wow.
it keeps coming.
Yeah, that's really great to hear to that, and also something to keep track of.
Right. We haven't had it recently, but it wasn't that long ago.
Patrick, and then we're going to take online. If people have online questions, start submitting them now. But Patrick first, go ahead.
Okay, Miniford Cross Street is sort of the longest term standing water on the planet. It just never goes away. And by the other one to talk about though is a health issue. Because that's also a breeding ground for mosquitoes and
Yes.
mosquitoes. You
Yeah.
can watch them. You can watch the larvae swimming around, high fives. But a health issue is so many mosquitoes come from that standing water.
Yeah,
And then you
absolutely.
hear on the news, don't have any standing water. And
Right.
I agree, you shouldn't. But then again, right on the street, forever standing water is a breeding ground.
Yeah.
I know exactly where it is.
I know you did.
So this project started in the fall of 2018 with our Queens communities first, and the same exact thing, except even almost a little bit, let's say gross. The waters actually sometimes come up from the storm drains, and so whatever gets flushed down
That
through the
eventually
storm
happens.
drains. Yeah, exactly. And so that's gonna get on our streets. We have kids. You have kids walking
actually
through
happens
it.
on Bridge Street. That was
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
on Bridge Street, not necessarily Miniford, but that was happening on Bridge Street, that the water would actually come up.
Oh, wow.
They've actually done some repair there,
Okay.
which has cleared some of it up, but they haven't eliminated the flooding, but it was definitely from the
Right.
sewers.
Right. So those types, I agree. When there's standing water, it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and so being able to pinpoint those areas to start doing projects on them, either with DOT or sanitation.
Oh, they've been reported for a year. They haven't
Yeah.
even gone there at all.
Yeah.
But I think now, again, we got paired with Helen through the Office of Emergency Management. They were here for the site visits. They're also involved. So we're anticipating this partnership and having everybody be data collectors now is going to reveal, and using our friends in the media here, to be a tremendous source of advocacy, because we're going to be documenting these things day in, day out. And sometimes a very important thing is learning how to, for lack of a better term, complain effectively. Like, we all know these complaints. I've known your street's been a problem for a long time. I go by and take some photos sometimes. I'm not, if anyone sees me out there, I'm not up to any sort of nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
But we're going to be doing this now in a very much regimented, documented way. Again, and I think something is very different now is with our public officials is, again, they've been passing legislation, the Community and Climate Protection Act. That's going to bring billions back to frontline communities. The communities that are probably going to get that funding are, one, communities that are counted by the census, and two, communities that can have a well-documented presentation of what is going on here.
Yeah.
So Helen's work is really invaluable.
Yeah.
And, working with someone as smart as her, again, I'm like the street photographer. My role in this is not as, expertise-wise as much, but knowing who the real smart people are and bringing them the documentation lets us make something that will be really well presented when this goes forward.
We're the, I wouldn't say we're the advocates, but we are empowering you guys to be
Yes,
the advocates.
100%.
We're the information resource bringers,
Yes.
and then it's up to the community to figure out what is best for them.
And,
right?
and as we said, Senator Biaggi, the Congresswoman, Assemblyman Benedetto, Councilman Jonah, everyone is paying attention. Some of them have been proactive, and others will get a very well put together report. That makes it easier for them to advocate for us in their respective budgets.
Another aspect of this, so John mentioned that we're partnering with the Office of Emergency Management. We're also partnering with their sort of the next level up, the Mayor's Office of Resiliency. So they've been key in helping us with the coordination on the city agency side. It's a little bit slow to start, but I think they're really enthusiastic about how we're using community knowledge to address flooding as a city overall.
Yes, go ahead.
So this can go to both of you. I would assume long-term the goal to kind of resolve some of these issues, resolve the flooding. Do you guys plan to meet maybe like in December, which would mark like a year when we started to try to see what can be looked at to start fixing?
So the goal is to have this kickoff meeting late spring. We would love to do sort of this flood walk idea where we'll go out as a group to witness these things in action, right? And then towards the end of a season, either during November, October, November, we would love to do like a data debrief, right? Sharing the data that you guys have collected, right? And seeing those areas, and we would love to invite our city agency partners, other scientists that we've sort of partnered and collaborated with over the years at the Science and Resilience Institute. So we would love to sort of do that within this year.
Yeah.
And we'll work with John and his group to do that.
And again, and also beyond just us, our elected officials aren't paying attention, and we're going to get to a few things that we're working on with them in kind of the same vein in a little bit. So, as those things come about, it is something we're going to continue to work on together. So, thank you. And does anyone have a question online or anywhere else? And as he's walking in, I do have to say, David is is instrumental and super helpful in also getting the photos that we need done. So he has been a big driver of this project, and we're going to keep working together. I'm not going to shake your hand because I learned about us in there.
Yep.
So I'm going to elbow you real quick, and let's give her a round of applause for all the work she's doing to sit down and that's great. Thank you. And you'll stick around for a little bit?
I might need to leave pretty soon, but I'll stick in the back here.
Everybody, if you're watching online or you're here, the last page has Helen's contact info in terms of emailing her. So, and you can email City Island Rising if you have your flooding photos. We are keeping these things very well documented. Again, help us, help you. Let's advocate for things together. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Helen.
No, totally. Yeah.
How the city recently got all that money to fix up the road, be resilient. Have you said you work with this, like, you don't work for the city, but when you're part of emergency management?
Yeah.
Like, is that discussion doing something similar to that?
I will promise you we are bringing that up in every meeting and every encounter with city agencies, that there's more than just one borough to this city. There are 5. And in this borough, we are a frontline community. So you are 100% right in your point.
They're lifting the whole park up and everything?
Yeah.
I can't speak on behalf of that because I don't represent the city, right? And it's kind of goes back to what John was saying, is that the more we, as a community, raise our voices and raise our concerns, more folks will take attention.
And again, expertise, opinion counts. You need someone smart to be in the room to advocate for you and to have things well documented. So Helen is our expertise opinion here. So it's very good that we have it. Thank you, Helen. Okay, we were going to do a big presentation tonight, and I unfortunately, current events kind of got away from us here. But I feel, next month, hopefully, when things return to normal, maybe a little longer after that, we will do something on the vacant storefronts. Dan, who's here, and Lauren and I, I've seen their presentation because they've been nice enough to send it to me. It's really something. And Lauren, as everyone knows, is getting her master's in public administration. She's studying this type of stuff with city planning. She's really put a lot of thought, a lot of effort into this. They have this map. It's really something. So when we can have a meeting where we can have our usual crowd plus more, like our 100-person meetings, that is going to be a real starting off point for this community. But I just want you all to know that.
So just two seconds. So the short is there's like a map of City Island, and there's the downtown district, the business district, which is supposed to be the center, except everything that's happened in the last X amount of months or years has happened outside of that district, and most of the vacancies are happening inside of there. So long term, we need to sort of recurate that district to include more of actual storefronts and actual things that are going on, and we need to figure out to be proactive about taking care of some of those spaces so that we can succeed and we can work together in succeeding in making those businesses succeed instead of sitting back and watching things happen that we don't particularly want to be taking place without going into major detail. So for people online or for people here, what you can do is in the next month before our next meeting, if you have any ideas of any, or if you want to start brainstorming on stores we need or things that should be going on, let us know so that we can come in ahead of the game with the extra information.
Yeah.
You know, for example, the Form of Philomena's is opening up across the street. When you leave, there's a new sign. Sooner or later, it'll happen. There's everything has to be up to code, so it's continuing to get up to code. And if you notice at the beginning of the island, what was Jackie Call's office is a future pet store. So people are starting to listen. People are starting to open things up. So talk to us. What's that?
Caliente's is going to be opening soon. I reached out to them.
Right, which is directly across the street from Seafood.
We're going to invite her to be a guest, so she feels welcome to this.
And I spoke to Anthony, and he's more than happy to come talk and let us know as soon as things are a little smoother. So anyway, so that's the 30-second non-update. Come next time, or send us questions, and we'll let you know what's going on.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. So we wanted to keep this meeting, as a resource for what's going on in the community, and that is interactive. So people online, if you want to get your questions ready, but we're going to kind of just go off of some very brief updates on what's going on, and I'll take questions after this from the crowd, online, whatever. The first thing that happened since our last meeting was on February 26th, we had the meeting on Rodman's Neck. And there was some big news out of this meeting. Jason was there. He's from the Bronx Times. There's an article. It's going to be in tomorrow's paper.
It's online now.
It's online now, but it's in tomorrow's paper for those of you who get the physical copy. We'll be posting it on our social media feeds. It's a very detailed explanation of what's going on. He was at the meeting. We also have audio from the meeting we're going to be putting online. So people, if you couldn't make it, you can listen to the whole thing in its entirety. We're kind of running a little bit of NPR C-SPAN over here, but no one's hurt by more information. So basically what's going on right now that's very important for everyone to know is the plan is the $275 million is still there. They may need some more because they're planning to fully enclose the range. And that's good because when they were going to put the range in Queens, they were going to fully enclose it. So I always wondered why, when it came to when it was put back to the Bronx, they didn't do it. And because, again, we deserve every amenity that Queens receives, and that's good to see that they are doing that. The temporary baffling is supposed to start in mid-2021, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to be doing something with sound curtains to, that's what they call it. Basically, it's to mitigate the baffling in a temporary way as they move forward with the full renovation of the range, which obviously is going to take probably till 2027, 2028, if we're really going to be honest with each other. But for the people here who rightfully have some aggravation with the range, it is good because there's going to be some relief coming in the immediate future. One thing we did talk to them about is, with the shooting range right next door, it's never going to be the perfect neighbor, but we can all be better neighbors. And we had a discussion about things they could do that were not related to the baffling that they could start doing right now. And one of those things is the PA system. People can actually hear what's going on with the PA system right now. You can actually, Tom Senior, who lives on the end of Bay Street, has been nice enough, he's been documenting what's going on. You can actually hear the loudspeaker announcements at 6:30 in the morning that are going on. So he hears, this wakes him up in the morning. And, this is something, we all have a cell phone these days. We all have they don't need to be operating that loudspeaker before they're allowed to start shooting at 8 o'clock that they agreed to. So we are pushing them, we're getting some pushback, but we are pushing them to limit their loudspeaker usage because we don't think it's right. And another solution here. The next thing is we're trying to get them to, at least when we know they're going to have heavy days of shooting. How many people here get the Notify NYC emails when they do a bomb detonation? Some people do. Okay. We're trying to get them to do a similar thing where they will release their schedule online. So when there's some sort of shooting, we can let everyone here know that the shooting, it's what days is going to be really bad, what days it isn't. So you can plan your life with a little bit of certainty, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The two more things we're doing here is one, and this is scary, but we have to be honest with each other. Everyone remembers back in 2018, particularly around Halloween, there were some terrorist threats. And sometimes, because we have the bomb detonation range, the bomb is being brought into Pelham Bay Park. And what we asked is that, and we're going to be writing to follow up on this on the precinct council, is that there be better coordination where they notify us when something's being brought there and when the streets are going to be shut down. I know some people have had problems picking up their kids if they're off the island because you're literally stuck here. And we can do better. We live in a modern world now. You can get a text message every time your cat moves on your monitoring device. We can do a better job letting people know what's going on with the bomb detonations. Finally, we're going to be doing a more proactive outreach on lead and the lead that is possibly fired off there and it getting into the groundwater or the bay there. We're going to be foiling them, and they've promised. We've tried to foil them twice before. They've kind of stonewalled us. We are going to be possibly looking into steps legally, if we have to get a full and complete answer to lead. And as everyone here remembers, back in August or September of 2018, the Department of Corrections, which owns a building there, actually had to shut down for a day because the lead concentration was too high. So this is not some far-ranging fear. This is a fear that is based on evidence. So that's the update on Rodman's Neck. Also, everyone here remembers, and we had our environmental panel in October. We had environmental advocates, Riverkeeper from Save the Sea, from Renew New York. There's a group I'm forgetting right now, and I will apologize if that person is watching right now. But we worked together, all these groups, so we had a really good discussion about the environmental needs of City Island. And in that room that night were people from the City Island Oyster Project and people from the Hutchinson River Restoration Project, a group where Violet's on the board. And we all met recently with Senator Biaggi. And this is something that's also in the Bronx Times. by working together, good stuff done for the neighborhood. It's a very important thing that we do that. Continuing, the Waterfront Alliance, which is another group we're working with. They're going to come in a few months to present to everyone. We're partner groups, and there's an important thing going on in the state budget right now where they want to do a Mother Nature Bond Act. Basically what this is they want a $3 billion commitment to invest in improvement of water quality and all sorts of environmental initiatives. So I would like to make a motion to everybody that we sign on as one of the organizations, over 100
source, and other community cats will come in and take advantage of that food source. So the technique is called trap, neuter, return. They use humane traps. There's this group has bought a few traps. There's some pictures, I think, on the flyer. They will use humane traps to capture the animals. They then go and they get spayed and neutered. They recover, and then they get put back into their communities. So they're keeping the population stable when you do that.
Is there one part of the island where there are more than the rest? Or?
There's a lot of feral cat communities on the island. So Stelter's Boatyard, and there's at least 6 larger communities that we know about, and I think that there's a few people who have maybe a small colony in their backyard or whatnot that they're supporting. Yes.
Well, before I ask my question, I just want to tell everybody I love cats too, except I also love wildlife. And I wonder if anybody's really thought about the damage that these cats, these feral cats, are doing to squirrels, to birds' nests, and I've seen them doing it. I know it's happening. So what can we do about it? Neutering would be a great solution, bring the population down, but they're out there, they're devastating the wild population on City Island too.
There's a whole conversation about that. Right now, if we don't do anything, then, the TNR, the idea with TNR, and honestly one of the things that I'm really excited about this group is that if we had enough resources to really manage the whole island, right? The island's interesting because there's only one way on and one way off, right? If we have enough resources to effectively spay and neuter the majority of the population, we would probably see those numbers start to decline. But it takes resources. So. I'm sorry?
They can't come in from outside, yeah. So it's very difficult.
It's hard. I mean, certainly, I think that there are some issues with abandonment, but it's going to be harder for a cat to walk over the bridge, right? So yeah. So it's actually an interesting. It's never really been done before. A complete control of the population.
And how can people, if they want to volunteer, sign up here?
Yep. And I think there's contact information on the flyer. There's 0347-871-MEOW. I love that they got that phone number. You can contact them by phone or send a video.
What it gets warmer? Is that do they like construction or people, the tourists that don't feel like coming indoors?
They're afraid of people,
really?
so they'll mostly hide from people. Like I said, when you walk past Stelter's first thing in the morning, sometimes you'll see them sunning up on top of the boats. Once the foot traffic catches up, they're going to be underneath there and inside shelter and that kind of thing, because they really do tend to be pretty skittish of people. Yeah.
Totally unrelated, so I don't want to.
Any other
So
questions?
one last point I want to make. So
Yep.
my wife Nancy and I, she sits back there. So we went into, we got a couple of those traps. Guess what? The first things we caught, skunks. Second time we put them out, skunks. So you know what we do.
Yeah, they've caught. I've heard rumors that there have been a skunk or a raccoon or two that have been caught, but they also have successfully started getting kitties in there for surgery. So it's kitten season. They're going to start. There's going to be a boom in the population if we don't do something.
Speaking of your wife, Dr. Nancy Keck in the back of the room, the president is Health and Human Service Director. She emailed me, and I forgot to mention this when I spoke earlier. All programming in all the libraries that the city is suspended as of tomorrow. So if you're part of the library program, if they're not going to be meeting, but the libraries as of right now are still open for 2 weeks. but the libraries now are still open, so just keep that in mind. Sorry to bother this, but I forgot that when I spoke earlier. All right, everybody, thank you. Get home safe. And for those of you who are online, we'll answer your questions, and we may ask for your audio recording so we can send that online if you didn't hear us. Thank you.
Thank you.